I love watching your videos, Gary, because you always speak from the heart. You have a strength of will that guides you always, of course, through the power of the Father, to truth. And that's something that's severely lacking in modern religions. I mean, you mentioned all the different sects associated with Christianity. They all think that, honestly, that by following one or another of these sects, that just by somehow joining this big herd of followers, that somehow guarantees their entry into heaven. So the amount of ignorance that's prevalent on this world, it doesn't need to be reiterated. People have wandered so far off of that one-pointed geometric path that you were talking about. I also love the way that you use symbols. The way that you actually make the symbols and manipulate them with your hands to understand is very similar to mystery school students who are taught to visualize them in their mind, and actually after a certain point, the way that they understand all these abstract religious concepts is through symbols which they'll see in their minds. So it makes me think that perhaps that you're being taught, in a subtle way by the same angelic teachers who are teaching the people of the mystery schools. There's so much confusion over what must be done. When the Buddha was teaching, I don't know exactly when it was around the turn of the first millennium, around the time of Christ, but when the Buddha was teaching, he forbade people from making an image of him. He did not permit people to make an image of him. He said that you shall not make an image of me. They depicted him with the wheel instead. They depicted him with the symbolic 8-spoked wheel, which is also the spirit sigil in occultism. He wanted that because he knew that without the direct presence of the Buddha or the Christ, it's the same exact thing. The Buddha means Christ, it's the same thing. Without the direct presence of Buddha, or without the direct presence of Christ, he knew that his followers were going to start turning him into a god. He knew that his followers were going to stray off of the path and start, doing ritual to him and start treating him as if he was something more than them. And that's what he did not want. He wanted them strictly to understand that all is mind, that we all share one mind. And that mind must be liberated from the senses, must be liberated from entrapment by this illusory paradigm around us. I don't think that the Christ Jesus would have wanted his teachings to be written down. I really don't think that. I think that Jesus much rather would have preferred a living lineage. I forgot the exact name of that. They call it mystic Christianity or something like that. But no, they call it the what do they call it? The apostle like lineage or something like that. There's a word for it in Christianity. But nowadays we're completely divorced from the actual meaning, the actual truth that Jesus was speaking. We're completely divorced from the actual words of the Buddha, from the actual meaning of the Buddha. All that we have is our misinterpretation of it. And that's what's wrong in every religion. That's what's wrong in every single religion. Doesn't matter if it's Christianity, Muslim, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Sikhism, Jainism. It doesn't matter. Sikhism. The problem is universal. Man has objectified God. Man has objectified enlightenment. Man has objectified religion, objectified all these things and weaving it into this tapestry of deceit called religion. I noticed on your channel, Gary, that you put, you had no religion. Very true. Because a religion, again, is just an objectified idea of morality, an objectified idea of what we're supposed to do, an objectified idea of God's law. But look, God's law is all around us. God's law does not need to be written down and enunciated by men. God's law is written down and enunciated by nature, as nature. Man doesn't need to hold false beliefs like a cup and try to catch everything in this cup and say, okay, everything fits in my little cup here. This is a mental stagnant energetic paradigm, a mental matrix right here. They try to fit everything in this matrix because the sheer mass of the world is telling them that this is how you're supposed to do it, that this is just how it is you put everything in the matrix. Everything is a matrix. That's all that there is the matrix. That's what people will think. Again, because since the Master died, people, they misinterpreted his words. They weren't actually speaking the Master's truth. They were speaking their idea of the Master's truth. And over a time, that idea of the Master's truth became what people believe was the actual Master's truth. So now we need this whole revival of non-religion to completely go out of the matrix, delve deep within ourselves, and to rediscover that presence of the Master, to rediscover that consciousness of the Master. Once we can rediscover that consciousness of the Master, he won't seek to join social clubs. You know, that's all that religion in the West, at least, is an irrelevant social club. The video also was that you made was about Islam. I have various ideas on Islam. When I first started to study it, I was very negative about what it was, and I still believe that it has a negative purpose. But I don't believe now that that negative purpose is pointless. I believe that there was a purpose for what we see as Islam. I believe that for that specific time period, that specific era, there was needed a catalyst, a remixing, a reblending of things in a setting out of the spirit of spiritual truth. It doesn't have to be that they were actually speaking spiritual truth. There's just that general spirit of spiritual truth that was awakened and risen out of that area, which purged Babylon of idolatry. Even though that Islam, pretty much is idolatry, it purged it of all the other lesser idolatries and paved the way for the understanding that there is only one. So, was it a bad thing or a good thing in the end? It was just a thing that got us closer to the precipice. So, now that we stand at the precipice, we don't need to be pushed and prodded by the angelic realms into activity. We can see now. We can start to use our analytical capacity in a divinely oriented way. And we don't need to be told by religion anymore.